you been? Because a lot has happened since the last time I saw you. That was, what, 2 years ago, you think?
I'm gonna say it was
Three?
20. I'm gonna say it was 2018. I thought it was 2018.
Was it?
So yeah, when you did your competition, I believe.
That was
Okay, that's.
2018, was it? No, that wasn't
I,
grade 11, was it?
I think it was, but I
Um,
time flies very fast. So
yeah, that's true. So what's new with you really? Because I've always been interested in what you're doing because it's more of a coaching thing, right?
I do coaching, consulting, training, and professional speaking. So it's a little bit of. I've got a few things on the go,
Yeah.
but ultimately, coaching is one of the areas where I focus. However, I do consulting as well.
So when did you get started? Like kind of what opened up the idea to get into the consulting and the coaching and all that stuff? And how did you get your kind of like your Maxwell award thing as well?
Um, John Maxwell certification. I've been certified with the John Maxwell organization since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, I was really operating independently on my own, which I still am,
Yeah.
but I was pretty much just flying by the seat of my pants, trying to figure things out. I started my business back in 2008 is when I officially had my first registered business. And I started out as an image consultant. So, which essentially what that is helping people to, actually coaching and consulting to people on appearance, behavior, and communication, and mainly in a professional setting. That was the intention and the goal. Once I initially started out with the appearance piece, so focusing on personal styling, wardrobing. That was the piece that resonated with me at the time because it was easier to get my foot in the industry and also manage it while I was managing my other job.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I also wanted to expand it to include leadership, to include personal growth, but I wasn't sure exactly how that would evolve. And I knew that I wanted to work with companies as well. So fast forward to 2014, um, after I left the government, because I was working with the government for 10 years, and then I left and started to do my own thing and took a little career break. Long story short, got back into
Yeah.
business in 2014. And I decided to go back and study for adult training and development because I wanted to use, the knowledge that I've gained in image consulting as well as knowledge that I gained from this adult training and development to build programs and courses and curriculum and speeches and all kinds of things to help adults to advance
They
in
can
their
use, yeah.
careers. Yeah. And then I found out about the John Maxwell team, and then that was it. I was like, okay, this is perfect because I
Yeah.
can fuse leadership, merge leadership into it, and eventually it's just evolved in so many ways. But right now, what I do, I focus in Africa. Right now, I'm focused on leadership development, working with companies, working with youth, working with organizations like NGOs and incubators
Mm-hmm.
to help people who are going through various workplace transitions, whether they're transitioning out of a 9 to 5 into self-employment, or they're trying to move up in their career, or they're trying to find work. That's not necessarily, the area that like the job search piece. That's not the area that I specialize in, but I do deal with career transitions, and I deal with entrepreneurship and leadership. So those are my areas of specialty. And yeah, that's the long and short of it. That's really how it all came
The
together.
long and short, yeah. So that's really interesting that you started in 2008, just right after the kind of global economic crisis, right? Did there was any big effect there, or because that's
Oh
definitely something
yeah.
interesting, right? So how did that play out for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was just starting my business. So for me, it was really, I didn't know what to expect, but it was in my personal life, it was very like, it was tough. I was in my 20s and I was just learning how to pretty much not learning how to be an adult because I was pretty much an adult, but how to manage things such as an economic crisis when you're on your
Yeah.
own and trying to survive. Um, but I was fortunate because I did have a full-time job that was a cushion. So my business at the time was really just it was a side hustle,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
it was something that I was committed to, very very committed to. So No matter what the economic situation was, I was still going to continue to do it, to work at it. It wasn't as easy to get clients, but that's just the nature of the industry, the nature of the work, especially when you're just first starting out. You have to just really get good at what you do, so that people can understand, that you're somebody who they can trust with their image, with their with their career.
And I can even see that now, because for my co-op, I managed to get into a law firm kind of thing, but I'm doing my marketing business with them. So I'm doing like the content creation for them and the posts and all that type of stuff. So, and I can see that they're still like, oh, should we trust them with it? Should we not? So yeah, you definitely have to build the basis for anybody to really trust you. And then, because it is really my first client, I'd like to think it as that. If they can get a good feedback from me and I can get great feedback from them, then I can just kind of build and build and build. And it's a small base, but then I can keep adding the bricks and the mortar, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, trust is when it comes to entrepreneurship, building trust with whomever it is that you're serving is a critical piece. If you don't have that, it's very difficult for you to have any success in business, right? But it's a process. It takes time. People, first of all, have to get to know who you are. They have to know that you even exist. And then once they know that you exist, you've got to build a relationship with them. And then that relationship has to lead to trust. Yeah.
It does. It's true. So speaking of kind of like getting people to know you, as you see, like there's a lot of people doing like the coaching and like the big stage performances. Like one of my favorite guys is like Gary Vaynerchuk, but you see those guys like Tony Robbins and all those other types of people. Where is that fall between for you? For the understanding of the audience, I guess.
Well, you see, the people that you mentioned, like Gary Vee and Tony Robbins, and even the likes of this Dr. John Maxwell, who is my leader of my organization, these are celebrities, right? These are individuals who, I mean, to their credit, have spent decades honing their craft, and they have gained, recognition through various platforms. They have brand recognition in the marketplace. People, you just say their name and people know exactly what they stand for. For people who are newer to the industry, it takes time. You've got to build up your expertise. You've got to get in front of as many people as possible. You've got to be good at what you do, right? You have to really, really have results and outcomes to speak to, so that people can say, you know what, I worked with Teca, or somebody I know worked with Teca, and she got me this result and this outcome. Because nobody's in the game unless they're going to get outcomes, right? It's really what is in it for them. So, I mean, for me, marketing is one of the pieces that for a long time I've been doing it on my own. Like I did everything on my own. And then eventually I said, you know what, enough is enough.
It's hard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even for this, I'm just trying to get on all platforms, and I'm like constantly splicing clips on which I think will go good on Facebook or all these other things. And I'm going into all these new platforms, and it's such a pain. So I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, you really have to figure out, first of all, like, what is it? Who is your audience? Who is the audience you're really trying to speak to? Whose problem is it that you're really trying to solve? And then once you figure that out, it's getting to where they are, going into target-rich environments, going to places where they hang out online, and making sure that you're present. So you don't necessarily have to be on every single platform, but you most certainly should be on the platforms where your audience resides, because otherwise you may end up spreading yourself too thin, or you may just be missing an opportunity to connect with them. So
for sure. So as for me, it's most of the people that are watching either my stuff or the brand that it's difficult, because right now I'm in about two pools of things. So I'm in the work area where I'm trying to build a business and I'm trying to do all that stuff, but I'm also building a brand within the podcast. And now I got really bored, and then I made another show. So I got a cooking show now that just went up today, which is
good for you.
Which is fun. So I'm using like Chef's Plate, which is like an ordering food service, and I'm just cooking their meals and I'm filming them. And it started off like I was going to be really professional, and then I was just like, oh, it's so hard to do this. So I went it how I wanted it, and I was like, it was fun.
That's awesome. Good for you. Listen, authenticity is key. So people love to see people who are authentic doing their thing. So I know that sometimes there's this idea that, you got to be a certain type of way, but sometimes the best type of way to be is just to be yourself, especially when you're doing something like a cooking show. So good for you for thinking of that and for pursuing it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing that I've seen really is like, I've just been at the beginning of like building just the first show, that Carson's Conversations, I was like, oh, I'm going to try and be really professional. And then I continued to go through it, and I was just like, it's way more energy to act as a different person than act kind of who you are. So I was just like, it would loosen up. Like there's some people at the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't want you guys to swear or anything like that. But I was like, that's just kind of stunting them as a person. There's no point. If they're going to swear, I might as well let them be them. Right. So you can, definitely the evolution of like just being a person through that stuff is definitely even vital for a business, really, because they're going to have to understand kind of your way of life and how you handle things. Right.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, there are limits, I think, to everything, right?
For
Everything
sure.
is done in moderation, but yeah, certainly, taking into consideration that you got to really be who you authentically are, because it will show. People will see if you're trying to be something that you're not. They will see that, and they'll fly away. They'll run away from that. People are attracted to authenticity, and to people who are, who bring out the best in them. That's really what it is.
So now that you were in Toronto, right?
Yes.
And now you're in what part of Africa?
I'm in Accra, Ghana.
So you're in Ghana. All right. I'm just curious because I know you're all over the place. Like you're just like when I always look, I like read up on what you're doing, and it's amazing what you're doing. But I'm curious how you got into contact with Mr. Toth. That's the one thing that's always I've been like, how did Toth find her? It's a diamond in the rough kind of thing. Cause yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words, but I got in touch with Mr. Toth through a gentleman named Peter Kislinski, and Mr. Kislinski was in charge of the, I'm going to say it's, I'm trying to remember the name of the program.
TRC, was it?
What is it?
TRC? I think I had that. I still have that lady's card.
TFC, I believe. Well,
TFC?
Or TY. It's essentially.
It's got a T in it.
Yeah, it's a youth program that was run in Halton Peel. That's the region that you were in.
Yep.
Is it Halton Peel? Yeah. And the intention of the program is to have business mentors, have community members partner with the school to help the students to develop in entrepreneurial skills.
Yeah, for sure.
There's an element in the primary, and there's also an element in the high school. So I was in the high school. I was volunteering in high schools, and Peter Kislinski connected me with a couple other schools, but things weren't working out. I wasn't able to make a match with a mentor. The way that the program was going, it was just the teachers were just so busy that they didn't even have time to really commit.
Really?
So, and I was ready and available. So Mr. Kaczynski said, you know what, where you live, there is a school, and there's a teacher, and he's really passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm going to connect you. And then that was it. And that's where it went. And then once I had a chance to come out to the classroom at least once, I really enjoyed the opportunity to speak to the students and to, in your case, I was helping with the Dragon's Nest, right?
Yeah.
Nest.
The knockoff version of Dragon's Den, I like to call it.
Where you did your pitch and you did an amazing job. And for me, it was really awesome to see that, there's so many young people who do have an entrepreneurial drive and who are committed to really allowing that to come, to come to life, and that there are teachers like Mr. Toth who are really moving outside of the box and trying to create additional opportunities for young people within the school system to learn more, do more, and be more. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen.
Sorry. TLP, the Learning
TLP, there it is. Yeah, that's it. The learning program or something like that. The learning platform.
Learning partnership. The learning partnership.
That's it.
Yes.
That's funny. Yeah, but now that you see, like, since as an entrepreneur, you see a big. I'm not even going to call myself an entrepreneur. I'm a wannabe. I'm close. I'm getting there. But as you see a big influx of people really like interested in entrepreneurship, and for me, I see a lot of students or people my age that put entrepreneurship in like their Instagram bio and saying, oh, they're doing all this stuff. What do you think like the effects are going to be in the future? Do you think there's going to be too many you can't really say there's too many entrepreneurs because it's going to kind of weed itself out, but do you think there's going to be too many things, like, you know what I mean? I'm not too sure how to describe this, but
No, I kind of understand. I think I kind of understand what you're
Yeah.
saying is, that right now entrepreneurship is sexy. It is a sexy thing because you've got
Yeah, that's very true.
a lot of people who are glamorizing entrepreneurship as this, you know, this is the utopia, this is the ideal thing to
Yeah.
do. You go into entrepreneurship and your life is set, and entrepreneurship is easy, and all you've got to do is take some really fancy photos and post them on social media, and boom, you are an
An
entrepreneur.
entrepreneur, more of just an
and it,
influencer.
and that is the furthest thing from the truth, right? Entrepreneurship it's not what it is cut out to be. It's not what it seems all the time. It is very, very difficult work. You have to be attached to a purpose for what you're doing. Otherwise, it is pointless. And you've got to be willing to, when things are not moving the way that you expect, willing to come up with creative solutions and really be willing to persist despite the challenges. I believe in entrepreneurship. That's why I started I have a program or a platform called Skills to Dollar Bills. And
That's a good name.
Thank you. That platform is to encourage more entrepreneurship for people who are creatives, people in the creative industries who have natural gifts and talents, but they're afraid to or don't necessarily know how to convert those gifts and talents into a profitable business. As a creative myself, I understand that, some of the challenges we as creatives have, it is, being strategic. Because when you're creative, you get to be kind of all over the place and you want to just create. You don't want to be bogged down by administration. And for me, one of the unique values that I bring to this particular initiative is the fact that though I am creative, I also do have that brain, that strategic brain, so I can be that person to create the order that entrepreneurs need, and to help and guide them and help them to see, the path, help them to see, and I'm here right now. This is where I want to be. Here are the steps in between that I can take to get to that place.
Yeah.
So for me, I believe entrepreneurship is definitely something that is going to be on the rise. I definitely feel that right now it is something that is somewhat glamorized, but at the same time encouraged because there is validity, and schools, schools and institutions of higher learning they have to adjust and be willing to incorporate this new way of being into their teachings, because the idea that you're going to have a long-term job for the rest of your life, that does not exist anymore. You can't just decide that you're going to come out of school, go and sit down at a desk and then work there until you're 65 years old. It just doesn't exist.
There's a small chance that that's going to happen, but are you going to be happy doing that? Right. Like that's another big thing that I find with entrepreneurship. And I can definitely see that with you is you're just genuinely happy because you're doing something that you actually care about. Right. So instead of sitting down, and I put this on because I truly believe this is you can be completely confused about what you want to do when you're 30. Yeah. And you can spend 1 year looking around and finding out what you want to do. But at the end of the day, you still have the 30 plus years till you're 60 where the most people retire, right? And if entrepreneurship is something that's interesting to those people, eliminate the glamour. Don't think about that stuff. Just put your head to the grindstone and kind of do what you're doing, and start in 2008 in an economic crisis. And like there's movies about it, it was bad, and then go all the way from there. Like that's the best part about it. And just even hearing stories like that just makes me happy, because it's such an interesting, and there's so many levels to someone building a business like that.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. And I say to people, sometimes people see the end result, but they don't necessarily see the process. They don't see what you go through, the sleepless nights, the tears, the financial losses, all of those things. People don't see those things. They just see, somebody who is in entrepreneurship and is doing their thing, but they don't necessarily understand the sacrifices that you have to make. So, people, when they get into entrepreneurship, they have to be realistic. Is this really what they want? And if it is really what they want, what is the purpose? What is the reason why they're getting into it, and attach everything that they do to their reason and their why.
Yeah. Like that's the first thing you taught me, because you and like Toth got me into he opened the door for entrepreneurship. And then when that competition thing happened and you came in, you guys kind of both came in with sledgehammers and like broke that door down. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. I'm so invested in this already.
That's
And
awesome.
it really shows that you gotta know and love what you're doing, or it's just pointless.
That's it. I totally believe that, and that's what I teach. Whenever I start with any new client, we start at purpose. We start at purpose. What is your purpose? Because if you don't know what your purpose is, and you're not always going to figure it out on day one, but it is definitely something that you got to really zone in on. Like, why are you doing this? What is the reason why you ventured into this particular arena? Because if you don't know, when when it gets difficult, when it gets confusing, when you become overwhelmed, you're going to want to just give up because you have no idea why you're doing what you're doing, right? But when you know that there's a real intention and a real purpose behind you getting into your entrepreneurship, like for me, my real purpose is, I have a couple, it's really to help people self-actualize. I genuinely believe in helping people to be better. That is my, one of my biggest passions. And I specifically am here in Africa because one of my passions and one of my, I guess my life mission is to have impact on the continent. So I've created an opportunity for me to do that, right? But then again, I still have the access to North America and more, and other markets because of the fact that I've kept it open, right? So that I can have more global impact. So for me, and then and notwithstanding having freedom in my life and building a legacy for my family and being able to spend more time with my family, these are the things that motivate me and inspire me to keep pushing, even when things don't look as good as they should,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
Yeah, that's super like, because since like, actually I'm more curious about how is the overall customer basis in Africa, because I'm not too sure about the business in that. We didn't, in TOTS class for global international business, we didn't learn too much about Africa. It was more about like Eastern and like Far East or just the Western cultures. So
Right.
what's kind of the take for Africa?
Well, I don't know. Were you in attendance when I did the talk on Remember Africa? It was actually
No.
an initiative put on by your school, and it was on the SDGs. So you had some of your peers had done a conference on
Yeah.
the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals,
Mm-hmm.
and one goal that I chose to speak on was decent work. And I can't remember right now. It's late, but essentially decent work for people across the world. And in Africa, it's an interesting dynamic. You're not going to hear a lot about Africa because the global narrative tends to exclude Africa for a variety of reasons. And I have my opinions and my take, but Africa is a continent that is has a great deal of potential. There is, international interest in Africa, as well as currently the African nations are building more alliances in terms of setting up a free trade agreement between the 50 plus countries within the continent. So what we're going to see, even though it is challenging because, every country has their own political dynamics, some of them have, are not as stable, but then there are very stable economies in Africa, Ghana being one of them. We're politically stable, very much a developing country, not third world. So for those people who have this idea that, we're third world, that's not the case. It's very developing. You'll see in Accra, there's much more, it's sometimes more modern than even in North America, certain places, we still have
for sure.
our challenges.
There's always those pockets anywhere, right? Where you can even see in Canada or in the States, like there's some places that are borderline third world, but there's not getting the attention, right? Like Flint, they don't even have clean water, right?
Right.
In Africa, you can, right? So there's certain aspects there, right? And it's interesting. You know what? It's late for you. I don't want to keep you any longer.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on. This was great. I'm happy we set this up.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem. And all the best to you. I encourage you to continue on your pursuit for entrepreneurship. I knew from the moment that I met you that you were somebody who was going places because you were very, committed to your cause, and you were very outspoken and articulate. So
Thank you.
I wish you all the best, and I know you're going to be fine.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to just kind of mention, like plug anything like that? The website,
Hey,
I can link it.
Hey, why not? Since we're here.
That's the point.
Okay, so currently, what I'm working on is my Skills to Dollar Bills brand. So Skills to Dollar Bills, which is a registered trademark as of this month, it's a brand that is catered to creative entrepreneurs who are seeking to build their creative business. We provide advice and guidance and support, coaching and consulting to creatives. And I say providing guidance from A to Z. With this particular brand, I've got it's called the Brick by Brick membership program. So that is currently under development, and we will be launching it very soon. And it will give creative entrepreneurs an opportunity to work alongside somebody like myself, a coach, consultant, and also get access to a library of content that can help you to get the information you need to build your business. So if that is something that interests you, then you can get on the waiting list. You can go to www.skills, that's SKILLS, $2 TODOLLARBILLS.com.
Everybody, all those things will be linked below, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll link them all.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Carson. It was great speaking to you. And,
for sure.
Keep in touch.
For sure. I'd definitely like to do that. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on. Everybody, this has been episode 21. This is the guest that's been the furthest away from me. Last time was Vancouver. Now we got Africa. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.